Well, Pfizer has shuttled 3.1 billion vaccine doses around the globe, and as soon as May this year, may be offering a fourth COVID shot for kids. Yahoo Finance's Julie Hyman is standing by at the South by Southwest conference with Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla. Julie.
Thank you so much, Jared. Appreciate it. And indeed, I am here with Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer. In addition to all of the talking he's been doing about the work that the company is doing right now on the vaccine, he's about to come out with a book called Moonshot that talks about the process of developing the vaccine at Pfizer. And it's a fascinating read, I have to say. But I do want to start with some of the more recent commentary that you've been making, Albert. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having me
it. So you have talked about that a fourth booster dose might be needed. You've also talked about the company's efforts to develop vaccines that target a range of variants, right? Just kind of looking at the chatter this morning and also looking at the booster uptake, which is definitely not nearly as high as for the original shots. How do you overcome that? How do you overcome sort of not just vaccine hesitancy, but booster fatigue, if you will?
I think we need to come with a vaccine that it is lasting at least a year. And all our research programs are aiming right now at that. A vaccine that will last a year and that will cover all known variants, Omicron and the old ones. But Omicron is the one that it is very, very key here. So we are progressing with this so that we can bring it to the world. But in the meantime, people need to follow the recommendations of the health authorities. And those that they have way better chances not to get into trouble.
And what's the timeline, do you think, on the development of what you're talking about?
We try to do it as fast as we can. There are so many programs, and all of them have different timelines. There is a program to see if there is a need of a fourth booster or not, based on real-world data that we have compiled, and those will be assessed by FDA pretty soon. We will submit pretty soon, and then they will have to make the recommendation, approval and recommendation, FDA and CDC. There is the program that we are developing a vaccine, new version of our vaccine that covers both the old variants and Omicron, at least twice as good as the previous one. And those data also will become available towards the end of this month and maybe early next month. And then there are programs that are working on pediatrics that also will be completed next month and will be submitted. And then a little bit longer term, but hopefully not that long, working on a yearly vaccine that can replace the current versions and get us to a routine that it is acceptable by the majority of the people.
And so to be clear here, for the people who have gotten 2 shots and a booster at this point, will they still want to go out and get that more comprehensive shot that you're talking about?
That will depend on the data, but looks like the third dose right now is protecting against hospitalization and deaths against Omicron, but not for long. And I think after several months is waning.
At the same time, as fast as Pfizer has moved, and again, in reading your book, it made it very clear just how fast it was and how unprecedented it was that the company and some of your peers moved as well. The virus moves just as fast, if not faster, of course, in coming with these variants. So how inevitable is it that there will be another dangerous variant, and how are we going to be able to sort of keep up with it?
It is a very smart virus, and the scenario that will come with another variant that maybe is more transmissible or maybe creates more severe disease, I think is a scenario that exists. It's a likely scenario. What we have to do is to ourselves to outsmart the virus and be always ahead of it. And this is all the efforts right now. We're surveying every single variation of the virus that appears out there, and we are making immediately tests to see if we have an issue. And if we have an issue, we jump immediately to make a vaccine that will cover it. And don't forget, we have now pills.
Right.
The pills, they have they are not affected, their efficacy, by the Omicron or other variants. They are working as good with Omicron as with all the others, the current pills. And they are very effective. Instead of people that are getting sick, instead of 10 of them going to the hospital, only one will end up going to the hospital. This is a very, very big deal.
There's also the issue of you can make as good a vaccine as exists. There will still be people, of course, that aren't going to take it. Do you think we can move past COVID or into a more sustainable period of COVID while there are still so many people who will not get vaccinated?
I think we will have to. First of all, I don't think that the people that they haven't get vaccinations are so likely that they will go and get vaccination massively. I think they have been proven to be very resistant into that, and despite the fact that there were a lot of measures that were somehow pressurizing them. You couldn't go to a restaurant, or you couldn't go to a theater if you didn't have a proof of vaccination. I think we, likely will move to more relaxed measures. And we will move to more relaxed measures, first of all, because we can't really maintain them. And the second is because also we can go. Right now, we have a significant number of the population that has been vaccinated, and we have treatments we didn't have before. The treatments were treatments only for severe illness when you are already in the hospital. It was not for someone that gets sick and wants to get something home so that in 1 or 2 days you will be okay instead of going to hospital. And now we do have them.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's a very big difference.
Yeah. I want to switch gears and ask you about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, because you all just came out with some news this morning that you are halting new clinical trials in Russia, new investment in Russia, and you're also donating the proceeds of sales of your drugs in Russia to the Ukrainian cause. Are we at a point, do you think, where the sanctions against Russia risk a humanitarian crisis amongst the Russian people? Do we get to that sort of a tipping point?
No, I think the sanctions have been designed to exercise pressure to the regime, and this pressure will only be exercised if, unfortunately, the pressure will be felt by all the Russians. But always with sanctions, medicines are excluded. That was the same with Iran, that was the same with South Korea, with all the places that we have sanctions. In our case, we debated a lot what needs to be done, and we felt that it is so foundational in our principle that patients should come first, that we cannot stop the flow of our medicines to Russia. Our medicines are medicines not like iPhone Pro, for example, or the new Mac. It is medicines like Xalkori, that is for lung cancer. It is like Ibrance, that is for breast cancer metastatic women. So you can't stop that. But on the other hand, this doesn't mean that we are continuing business as usual in Russia. So although we will maintain the flow of the medicines, first of all, we will not make money out of it. All the profits of the Russian subsidiary going forward, effective immediately, will be donated to causes to alleviate the pain that the invasion is causing to Ukrainians. So every medicine that we are making in Russia goes to Ukraine. The second is that we are ceasing all our clinical trials there. We are not, actually to be accurate, we are not initiating new. We stopped recruiting new patients in our clinical trials, but again, patients first. Patients that were already enrolled in those studies, let's say oncology studies, they will continue taking their medicines. We will not stop them in the middle. And also, we are not having manufacturing sites, but we're planning to make some investments. We are pausing those investments there.
You mentioned some of the drugs that you sell there, that you sell everywhere, to treat various types of cancers. During this period, Pfizer has really become synonymous with fighting COVID, and particularly with the vaccine. And indeed, last year, more than 50% of your revenue came from the vaccine business, more broadly. Is that an issue? How do you sort of move past this period and pivot once again to post-COVID, not post-vaccine, because you'll still be selling vaccines, but sort of communicating to investors and the public about what Pfizer is?
Yes. Our research portfolio right now, that is the best predictor of the future of the company, is very broad and diverse. We are having medicines in 6 therapeutic areas, and vaccines is one of them. It's not COVID, it's multiple vaccines. But we do have in rare diseases, in oncology, in immunoinflammation, in metabolic diseases, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of activity that is happening right now. And the second is that we are not only investing in internal science, we are investing also in external science. We are right now screening the markets and try to find biotechs that partnering with us will create value for the patients and as a result for both of us. Partnerships like the ones that we did with BioNTech in the vaccine. And I think future is bright.
And so I know that a number of your existing pharmaceuticals are coming up to lose patent protection as of around 2025 or in the period between 2025 and 2030. What do you say to investors who are concerned about that, about the replacement of that revenue? Where do you think the replacement will come from?
I think it's normal that patents are expiring in our business. That's exactly what is happening, and they are expiring only to be replaced by new that are coming from our pipeline. I think our growth in the period of 25 to 30 will be maintained at a very high level. First of all, because of our current portfolio that is growing, despite the fact that we will have significant number of LOEs, because of our pipeline, and because of our investments in business development. It's all focused in filling this gap. All our business development activities right now are on assets, phase 2 or phase 3, that can become potentially medicines in 25, 26 period where we are losing patents.
And reading the book, it was really clear the focus that you were applying and the urgency that you were applying to finding the vaccine for your team. What do you kind of hold on to from this period for the next phase for Pfizer, culturally, for your team there?
I think you said the right word, culturally. I think what remains with us as the biggest asset is not the intellectual property that we developed, is not even the processes that we develop, how to do things very fast, because clearly those are here. It is the culture of every single Pfizer employee that thinks that it is good to think big, to dream, to go for what maybe seemingly is impossible, because you have proven that there is nothing that can be declared impossible. Everything is impossible until someone makes it. And we want to be the ones who make it.
So on that note also, reading the book, it was really remarkable, and this will be my final question, but I'm curious if you ever got discouraged, because if you did, it wasn't evident in the book. You were pushing ahead, you didn't ever seem to consider that it wasn't achievable to find the vaccine.
I never ever thought to stop or drop it. But there were moments that I was seriously concerned if we are cornered with very high levels of difficulty. And those moments were daily almost, because there were so many issues that needed to be resolved in manufacturing, in logistics, in how you develop your clinical trials, that sometimes things were looking tough, but we always resolved it. But even in the toughest of the moments, I never thought to drop it. I was saying I'm going to die trying rather than admit defeat.
And luckily for you guys and for everyone, you ended up succeeding. Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time here this morning.
Thank you.